I'm going to have my nice sip of coffee here bright and early. Yeah. I'm at Nick Cashew on all the socials. Streaming live on my YouTube channel, too, if you want to dabble in the video. All right, today the hair's okay. You know, it's early. It is. I'm just going to do one more of these little... Trying to stay up watching the games last night. I was having a conversation with somebody yesterday, and for everybody, all of you out there on the West Coast, the best time to watch games is on West Coast time. I know there were polls that were done for this, and I know that there was, a collection of data because we're always collecting data. And the votes came in and said that it was Central Time Zone. It's the best time to watch sports. I'd like it a little bit earlier. I think it's great. Give me games to start at 4 o'clock. I'll take it. So I'm envious of everybody sitting here on the East Coast when you got tip-offs at 10:10, and I'm like, this isn't going to work. So did the best I could here. But Duke's on to its third straight Elite Eight. I know there's either people very happy or very, very angry, and this is what Duke brings to the table every single year. Look, this is where college basketball needs to be, right? But most importantly here, from a basketball perspective first, like Duke is really good. Like, can we be honest with ourselves? I know people love Duke and hate Duke. I've never hated Duke. I grew up a Grant Hill fan as a kid, like as a young lad. My favorite player in the NBA was Grant Hill. Kids, he was really good before all the injuries. And I'm going to admit something on the air. I kind of been a Duke fan growing up. I have no connection whatsoever other than that. But like, I went to George Mason. It's cool. We went to the Final Four. I enjoyed that. But I recognize that it's kind of one of those things where you go, okay, it's not, for me, my connection in college basketball is just enjoying college basketball, not my school. It was a fun run, but that's as far as it went. But like Duke is a very talented team. They recruit NBA level talent. And there's a reason why they are where they are. And there's a reason why they blew a 10-point, or St. John's blew a 10-point second half lead here. Duke has overcome injuries, bad outside shooting. They're great inside, and they're a great rebounding team. And you got all these things. And they just find ways to win. And it's one of the rare situations, too, when you look at this Duke program, where you've had the guy that succeeds the guy, right? John Shire taking over as the head coach for Coach K, Mike Krzyzewski. Don't worry, I can say it. And it's worked. Now, I get it. He was with the program for a while. They kind of groomed him. They knew he was going to be the next person to kind of fill those shoes. And it's impossible to truly fill Coach K's shoes. But I think Duke's got their guy. I think John Shire was the right choice. And you don't always see this. That's a really tough spot to be in, to be the guy that follows the guy. And we've seen it so often in sports, whether it's a star for a team, the face of the league is looking at who's going to be the next face of the league in the NBA with LeBron James in the twilight of his career at this point. And Duke's kind of set up for long-term success. So if you don't like Duke, I get it. But I hate to tell you this, they ain't going anywhere. Love them or hate them, this team could win the title. And that's where Duke really sits right now. Now they've got UConn coming up next now after this win, and Terrace Reed inside is going to be a problem. And, UConn beat Michigan State last night, in case you're wondering. Because that's just one of those games like Tennessee beating Iowa State, and you're like, good God, okay, can we this is how it's going to go. Vols are going to see Michigan. They beat Alabama. That jumbo lineup, though, here's the one thing that I will say for Michigan. That jumbo lineup has been a problem for a lot of teams except Duke. You just kind of look at where the brackets are shaping out, and you're like, at one point here, that could be a matchup that we then see, and we know that Duke has had the ability to beat a team like that. Look, this tournament is probably what we're going to see moving forward. And I've said this for years. It's just we're starting to see, again, the data, if you will, backing this up. You think you want Cinderellas, but you don't want that to be the main course. You want that to be the appetizer, the hors d'oeuvre for you, right? It's nice to dabble in it. It's nice to have a little sample. Like, cheese sticks are great, right? You want a little fried cheese, you can have like one, and it's good. You start eating 4 or 5, you're going to feel sick. It's going to be way too much, right? That's what Cinderellas are. High Point was great. It was a great story. But when you think about it, Tennessee beating Iowa State last night, kind of one of the bigger upsets in this tournament where we haven't necessarily had a ton of them. You're always going to have a few, and then it's like, okay, what do we count? Like, is St. John's a Cinderella as a 5 seed? Maybe, but maybe not. but haven't been to a Sweet 16 since 1999. So you're like kind of putting them in the category. But if we're being honest with ourselves, this tournament has had the right amount of Cinderellas, a few, and that's it, right? You just want to dabble in it because we have 3 number 1 seeds still in this tournament heading into the Elite Eight. You're going to dabble with a couple of lower seeds. Iowa's a 9 seed. Tennessee's a 6 seed. That's good. That's enough for everybody. We can play the game that it's fun, and we can. Marketing is so strong in this country, right? I mean, I'm going to be that guy for a minute, but I see kids in high school today wearing huge baggy jeans, and I'm going, I did that in middle school, and we're pretending it's cool again, and I remember doing it, and it's not. But when you're in the fashion industry, you're like, well, we got to get people to buy stuff again. So what do? Oh, let's make baggy stuff cool again because we got to sell things. So it's marketing, right? All of a sudden now you've got chips that are protein chips. They're chips, okay? But all of a sudden the mainstream people we've all figured out, oh, protein's good for you. Let's market protein. We've marketed Cinderellas because we've had so many of these upsets over the years, and you want people to think it's fun and you want people to think it's cool. Look at High Point and their really fancy school with their pinkies out. Oh, yes. We have classes where we learn etiquette every week. It's great. We want like 1 or 2 of those. And that's it. That's what people are asking for. After that, you want the big dogs. You want the programs that win. You want the programs that have the NBA level talent that everybody in the NBA is tanking for right now at the risk of the NBA throwing the hammer down on them, which, yes, we will get to in the show. But NIL and transfer portal are probably going to suppress a lot of Cinderellas moving forward. Now, what NIL specifically is that, we'll kind of put them together, actually, if you really think about it. So if you put the NIL, umbrella in the same room as the transfer portal, because they can kind of work hand in hand. It's free agency without a salary cap, and it's the ability for programs not to just recruit 16, 17, and 18-year-olds, but also players that go to a school, look around in the Ron Burgundy in the bear cage and go, I immediately regret this decision. And then they realize this is not the school for me. This is not the system for me. And it's same thing in college football. It's really similar, where you look around and you say, this is not the place that I want to be. And, for so long, people have had these problems with it, right? Where it's like, oh, you committed to this school and now you're leaving. Okay. Sometimes you go to a place or you take a job and you realize, you lied to me. This is not what I signed up for. That's somebody's life. Now, again, guys transferring 3 and 4 times over their college career. All right. I mean, it's a little exhausting, but that's the reality of where college sports are. And you mainly put college basketball and college football in there for a reason. But this is what the future of the NCAA tournament is going to look like, because you're going to have 1 seeds and 2 seeds with a lot of talent. Some are going to be transfers. So you're creating a level of parity at the top, but it's not as much of a trickle-down effect as some people might think for some of the smaller schools, because in the end, the bigger schools are still going to have the bigger budget. And some don't always. I mean, Houston was, and Kelvin Sampson, they're in a press conference where they're basically saying we're broke. It's like, well, you're not broke, but yeah, you may not have the same amount of money that you can pay these guys in NIL deals that some of these other blue blood programs can have. But again, North Carolina, they've been a mess for years, really. Hubert Davis didn't work out. Again, the guy that follows the guy in Roy Williams, it's not. So it doesn't guarantee everything. But what we do know is that if you're looking at where we are in this tournament, there's not like one team that truly stands out above the rest. You could make a case for Michigan. You could make a case for Duke. You could make a case for Arizona. Florida, most people said ain't going to happen, and we made the case they weren't, and that's what you get. But you have a level of parity that's kind of spread out near the top. NIL transfer portal has created a lot of that, but it hasn't put you in a position where it's gone all the way down, where it's just so even. We're going, I like this 5 seed and this 8 seed and this 12 seed. They've really got a shot. Like, you can play pretend, but it's still mostly at the top. You've added a level of spread out parity, and college football is even more with this. We've seen that. Go look at the tournament we just had, or the playoff, if you will. They call it. It's a tournament, but let's be honest with ourselves, right? But we just had Indiana win the national championship. I mean, they're in a big conference, but they've been known as a basketball school that's struggled to be a basketball school, but a basketball school either way. You've had that level of parity that's there, and parity to a point is good, but you don't want too much, right? We had a lot of parity in the NFL playoffs, but you don't want too much. And March Madness has, I think, the right balance now, where you look and say, Big programs, bunch of teams you could trust in, but we don't have a ton of double-digit seeds in the Sweet 16 and the Elite Eight where it gets just people get bored. They do. All right, Nick Ashew, Westwood One Sports. Luka had 40 last night. Again, you know, we're weaving all of these different names into the face of the NBA, and the NBA would love Luka to be one of them, though he did get a 16th technical, so he's probably going to get suspended. He can't shut his mouth. Luka's one of my favorite players, but dude, you got to learn to shut it sometimes. I mean, he is just this is what he does. He's had 15 40-point games this year. He's averaged 40 points a game over his last 12. That includes a 60-point game, a 51-point game, and 4 more 40-point games all over that stretch. Look, this MVP race, you want to talk about parity that's wide open too. I mean, it really, really is. You could justify Nikola Jokic, but we got guys up against this 65-game threshold now. Remember that. Right on the edge. You could justify Wemby and Luka and Jokic and SGA, although he was 0 for 10 from 3 last night. And that's a guy that just won MVP. A guy that went 0 for 10 from 3. But, you know, this is kind of where the NBA is sitting. And, you know, if you're looking at a race right now that has all of these names in the MVP race in the NBA, every league goes through a transition, and that's where the NBA is starting to. It's getting to that point where they were back when Michael Jordan was at the end of his career. It's, well, who's next? You sat there and you went, is it Tim Duncan? And, well, the Spurs are winning. So, oh, maybe it's Kobe. But then you got Shaq. And then that whole thing got broken up. And then LeBron came into the league. And then we know who the face of the league was. And listen, LeBron exceeded expectations in his career. I don't care whether you like him or not. LeBron James has exceeded all expectations that were artificially placed on him in his entire career. But it's coming to an end. And Steph Curry's kind of in that mode. He's in that phase a little bit. And if you really want to compare careers, Steph Curry's career actually is a closer parallel to Michael Jordan's than LeBron, right? Played for the same team his entire career. Organization put talent around him. I mean, Klay Thompson, when they were winning championships, was basically Steph, Scottie Pippen. They're not the same players, but it's the same type of story. You know, everybody hates that LeBron's bounced around to some different teams. But in reality, if LeBron James had been drafted by the Golden State Warriors and played for that team, probably would have stayed because they built a championship team around Steph. And they probably would have built a championship team around LeBron. But again, that's an alternate reality that we don't live in right now. But trying to figure out who the next face of the league is, there is a chance that it's somebody that was playing or is playing in the NCAA tournament right now, probably was. AJ DeBansa could be that. Right? Darren Peterson could be that. Maybe Cameron Boozer. I mean, I don't know. Like, listen, there's endless amounts of possibilities, but there's also plenty in the NBA. Luka has that potential now, playing in LA, playing for the Lakers. That's a big deal. Nikola Jokic doesn't really have the personality to get to that point. Anthony Edwards, the whole piece is there. But can you do that in Minnesota? Sorry, Minneapolis. I'm just being to be honest with you. That team's got to win a championship. Not a big enough market. It probably doesn't help. But listen, you don't have to play in a big market in the NBA anymore to be a star, but it helps. If Shai Gilgeous-Alexander played for the Knicks, there'd be a bigger spotlight on him. Also going 0 for 10 from 3 like he did last night, you'd have to deal with that. So there's wins and losses that happen with this. But this continues to be a wide open race, and Luka's absolutely part of it. The reality here is if you're the NBA, this can take a while. Like, it's not going to happen overnight. You're going to have a stretch where people are just raving about Luka Dončić. They're raving about Giannis in whatever uniform he's in next year because it's not going to be Milwaukee. Kind of past the point with Giannis, but it may be a short window. And that's really what it is. Is it going to be multiple guys that sit there and kind of take the lead for a little while? You got to win championships, though. You know, we talk so much about how the NBA is a star-driven league, and it is. But we also do put a heavy weight on winning. And that's a good thing. Like, that's not bad, but it is still part of the story. And if the Lakers win a championship with Luka this year, because they're a 3 seed right now, keep in mind too, like the Lakers are a 3 seed in the Western Conference. They're starting to climb. And that torch has clearly been passed over to Luka. It's not LeBron James's team anymore. And this is that transition period for the NBA. Luka's been on an absolute tear. He has a level of that personality, but you gotta rein it back in just a little bit when you're screaming at the refs. You gotta pull it back just a little little bit, dude. We're at a point where it's gotten to be way too much. But the NBA is going to have to figure this out. And this matters to them because we know the NBA, knee-jerk reaction to just about everything. Oh, God, everybody's saying something negative about players sitting out too much. 65-game rule for rewards. Rewards. You know what I mean? It's early. Hang on. Let me just... Yeah, it'll be a little more coffee for me. The NBA reacts to a lot of things. And yes, the tanking rules, the extreme reaction to tanking. I've also run it through AI. I've got a solution for the NBA as well. But we are brought to you by Progressive Commercial Insurance. Protect small businesses with affordable coverage options. Quote today at progressivecommercial.com. Have we finally reached a point where a star player in the NFL could finally be on the move? For the love of God, stop pretending this isn't going to happen, Cleveland. Nick Ashew, Westwood One Sports. You know, sometimes we just have to admit that there is the end of a relationship coming, and the Cleveland Browns and Myles Garrett need to just look at each other and say it's been a good run, but it's time for this to be done. And there's a chance that it actually might be now. This has actually not been talked about enough over the last 36 hours or so. I'm going to do the math. 36. We're just going to say 36 hours. Maybe it's a little less. Go from there. So the Browns actually restructured Myles Garrett's contract earlier this week. So they pushed his option bonus payments back, and there's a bunch of stuff that's involved with that. But they now have this viable post-June 1st trade window for the first time that they didn't before, where there's not going to be this massive dead cap hit. And we know some teams are willing to take those dead cap hits, like the Dolphins or the Broncos with quarterbacks. They said, yeah, this ain't going to work anymore. But most teams say, we got to get this number down just a little bit. Look, the Browns are a bad team, and they've been a perpetually bad team forever. I don't know whether they're asking potential guys they're drafting to write essays, but we know they were asking head coaches to write essays. They're just a complete mess all over. And I feel bad for Browns fans. You deserve better than this. You love this team, and you want them to win. And I know I'm a Commanders fan. There's bad ownership can go away. I'm on the other side. Guys, it can get better. You just got to get ownership forced out somehow, and it's hard for fans to do that. But essentially what now we're looking at is a smoothed out dead cap hit for Myles Garrett, which would make, it would make more sense to now trade him. And listen, Myles Garrett is 30, which is that dangerous age in the NFL where it depends on the position, where it's either really bad, like running back, wide receiver, it's like, maybe we'll pay you. Or at quarterback, you're just kind of hitting your prime. So Myles Garrett is a defensive end and edge rusher. It's kind of at that point where you go, he's obviously got something left in the tank. He just broke the sack record, even though it took him an extra game. But you know that teams are going to look at this and say, all right, the age, wrong side of 30, but also coming off of historic season, you've got an opportunity here to still sell about as high as you're going to be able to in Myles Garrett's career. You just, why? Like, this isn't quarterback. At what point, if you're the Cleveland Browns, do you just stop pretending that this is going to work? Stop pretending that you actually matter right now as a team in the NFL and that Myles Garrett's going to help get you to the playoffs. This is the time to rip off the Band-Aid and say, let's get some picks, let's rebuild this thing, and let's move forward. It's just been dragged on for years. And at what point do we just look and say, we don't believe you anymore? I don't believe you. I mean, that's how everybody in the NFL is looking at the Browns now. But now they've quietly made these moves with his contract. And it tells you they're thinking about it. He signed a 4-year, $160 million extension. He wanted the extension. He got the extension. Problem is you got to take it with the Browns. They're bad. But now is an opportunity for everybody to move on. And listen, he's an edge rusher still in his prime. If he has 3 years left at that, it's worth it for some teams. I mean, it really is. I want my Commanders to trade for him. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm just going to say it now. I would absolutely love to see that happen. But there's a lot of teams out there that could, if you're the Browns, you take some calls right around the draft. We got a little less than a month until the NFL draft is here, and everybody's always looking for another edge rusher, right? And you got to figure out, if you're the Browns, like, who's going to be the most desperate? Because you don't want it to be a position where he asks for a trade or wants out. Because that's when teams go, yeah, well, you don't really have a choice, dude. So here's what we're offering you. Here's a second. Here's a fifth. That's it. You're probably not getting a first-round pick. If he was a little younger, you could get a first-round pick. But even after the season Myles Garrett had, realistically, it's going to be tough when he's sitting at 30 years old. You're right on that cusp where teams can say, not good enough for me. But think about it. There are teams that would be desperate right now to add Myles Garrett and sacrifice down the road. And just look at the NFC as a whole first. Who do you trust? Now, who do you really trust in the NFC? The Rams have said F them picks. They've gone all in on winning this season and maybe Matt Stafford's last ride. So if you're the 49ers, do you look at Myles Garrett? Do you look at the fact that you had the fewest sacks in the NFL in 2025? They already signed a 33-year-old Mike Evans, so they're willing to spend on old guys. They need Myles Garrett probably more than anyone. They want to keep pace in the division with the Rams. They want to keep pace in the NFC with the Rams. 49ers might come calling. What about the Eagles? The Eagles just lost Jalen Phillips in free agency. When they won their Super Bowl a couple of years ago, they sacked Patrick Mahomes 6 times or whatever it was. I mean, they went after him. Howie Roseman is aggressive as any general manager in the NFL. That would make perfect sense. Pains me to say that because the last thing I want to see as a Commanders fan is Myles Garrett in the division and having to see that dude twice a year, but that's a possibility. I prefer that it doesn't happen. But if it does, it makes sense for the Eagles, and it also could make sense for the Cowboys. I mean, they went after Max Crosby. They don't have Micah Parsons anymore. Jared Jones. We're going to need to get ourselves another edge rush. We need some more defensive players on this team. We know that you don't have to deal with the contract negotiation if you're Jera because it's already done. So you already know what the money's going to be bringing that in. I mean, maybe it's the Cowboys. What about the Bills, even over in the AFC? You got a new head coach. You got high expectations after you fire Sean McDermott and the consistency you've had. I know the ceiling was lower and they were losing in the playoffs, but some of it was getting through the gauntlet of the AFC. It's not easy, but Josh Allen's in his prime. They could use another edge rusher. They are in win-now mode. The teams that will trade for somebody like a Myles Garrett are the teams that are desperate, and the teams that are in win-now and the teams that say F them picks to various degrees. Nobody says F them picks like the Rams, but there's other teams that also can follow suit with that. I think the 49ers would make a lot of sense. I mean, they're in a position now where they don't have a lot that they can work with at this point. And just, at some point, if you're the Browns, there's more value in, and again, draft picks don't guarantee everything, but if you're the Browns, you're sitting there, you have to look around and have that moment where you look in the mirror and you just say, who are we? Who am I? You're not a winner. You're a losing organization, and you've been a losing organization for a long time. And Kevin Stefanski won 2 Coach of the Year awards, bringing you out of the muck, out of the mud, out of the swamp that was the Cleveland Browns organization and still is. And that falls on ownership. It falls on a front office that's dopey. But this is what you have to deal with. So you have to finally accept that this is what your identity is. And the sooner that the Browns can understand that this is who they are, put their ego aside, and I know that's not easy, but if they're able to do that, guess what? You at least are putting yourself in a position to move forward and get younger. This is the time to do it. And, in the NFL, the best teams are more willing to move off players while their stock is still high. Love them or hate them, that's what the Patriots did in the Bill Belichick era, right? All the time. They're trading guys 27, 28 years old because they don't want to pay them a big deal, and they get a bunch of picks. Now, you can have all the draft picks in the world, but if you don't know how to draft, does it really matter? So that's the other issue, is the Browns have to figure out how to actually draft. So again, I'm not saying all this is going to turn the Browns around and turn them into a franchise that's going to start being a perennial playoff contender in an AFC that's absolutely loaded, but there's a lot of teams out there that if I'm in win-now mode, I'm calling up the Browns and I'm like, hey, all right, what's it going to take? What's it going to take for us to get Myles Garrett? Yeah, okay. All right, we'll give you a second and a fifth. I mean, really, because you're not going to have to likely give up a first-round pick. You're just not. And you have an opportunity if you're the 49ers, the Eagles, the Bills, the Cowboys, and there's plenty of other teams you could throw in there. Again, I'd love my Commanders to do it. There's plenty more that would say we could use another edge rusher that just broke the sack record, even in an extra game. Still happened. So I put them in a position here where it's time to move on. And look, the NFL draft could be chaotic. You could have potential trades. You could have lots of questions past even number 1 at this point now. I mean, Arvell Reese is no guarantee that he goes number 2 to the Jets. I think it's very likely, but there's no guarantee. And this is where if you're a team and you're looking to maybe trade off of a star, and we can use the Browns and Myles Garrett as an example, but it's far beyond that too. The draft can force teams' hands in a lot of different ways. And sometimes it's teams making trades up or down early in the first round, given how the board shapes out. And really the chaos is kind of looked at really more likely if we're going to put higher odds of where the chaos really starts. It's right around Cleveland at 6, Washington at 7, where things could really get confusing, but that doesn't guarantee everything. I mean, there are opportunities for earlier picks, Cardinals at 3, even Tennessee at 4. Do they take Jeremiah Love? And if they don't, do teams start looking to trade up because they love what Jeremiah Love brings to the table? I know he's a running back, but you know what I've said about the rebirth of the running back? It's here, and Jeremiah Love falls into the category of what Bijan Robinson and Jahmyr Gibbs are, and that's more than just traditional running back. That's Christian McCaffrey. So if you look at the potential for this NFL draft, there is an opportunity here for multiple teams to hold the cards in a level of control, whether it's the Cardinals at 3 or maybe the Jets have 2 first-round picks. They're likely not going to take a quarterback this year unless they somehow decide that I don't think they're taking Ty Simpson at 16. That's a bit of a reach. But when you got 2 first-round picks next year, do you take a quarterback this year? Do you take a quarterback next year? And just kind of figure it out. Which, if you're the Jets, they keep screwing up quarterback anyway. Maybe that's the answer. It's just like, let's draft a bunch of them and see what happens as long as our head coach doesn't fall asleep during their workouts. I know it's not fair. Camera was on Aaron Glenn, and it just they were waiting for it to happen. But that's going to be a meme for this entire season. So get ready. But, teams are going to reach. Teams always do reach. And for somebody like a Ty Simpson, there's a lot. Again, there's been a ton this week, right? I know Dan Orlovsky came out and thinks he's better than Fernando Mendoza, and then talked about what big games has Fernando Mendoza played. And I don't know, he just won a national championship, so maybe we need to pull back on that narrative a little bit. But there is something to be said for quarterbacks in a quarterback-starved league in an offseason. We talked about this, right? Like, there were no quarterbacks on the market from free agency or trades or whatever. I mean, it really wasn't. Tua and Kyler Murray were the only ones that you'd look at and say, maybe we can make them better. Kyler's in a good spot in Minnesota. He's going to start over J.J. McCarthy. I don't think Tua starts in Atlanta. So you kind of look at the rest of these other teams. There are going to be teams that are still out there saying, okay, do we find a guy that's now? Do we find a guy that's later? Ty Simpson, if I had to predict now, Ty Simpson will end up being a first-round pick in this draft. A team will reach. And a lot of that is kind of how the draft board shapes out before them. But we've seen this plenty of times. Remember when Christian Ponder, there's a name for you, got drafted? I think it was 12th overall by the Vikings. How'd that work out? People were like, what? You took him at 12? Didn't work out. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that Kenny Pickett was the only first-round pick for a quarterback, and we know he wasn't really a first-round pick, but the Steelers said, maybe. Let's see what he can do. We need a quarterback. That's what's going to end up happening with somebody like Ty Simpson. As the team says, we could maybe make it work. And in the right system, maybe. He'd benefit from going to a team, not the Jets, that knows how to develop quarterbacks, and he's not the starter right away, and he's the guy that's down the road maybe a year or two. But we always expect, right? You draft a quarterback, first round, got to be a starter, got to put him out there right away. It's not always the right philosophy. This is what teams love to do. But I think that there is a very good opportunity here where, because you have very few quarterbacks in this draft, there are so many other positions, though, that have talent. You're still going to get that level of chaos. And that also then involves players that are already on rosters that might get moved. Myles Garrett's just one of them. I mean, listen, maybe there's a chance a team later, it won't be the first round, maybe later in the draft, finds a way to work out a trade with the 49ers because they want Brandon Ayuk. I mean, we know he's done there. Everybody expects him to get released, but if you're the 49ers, you sit and you wait till June. But if you're a team, I mean, again, he's linked to the Commanders, but if you're going to sit around and wait, do you really want to wait till June and then find out that it's not going to work out the way you want, even though your GM used to be in the 49ers front office? Like, there's all this stuff that you really got to factor in. And I think we're going to see a relatively chaotic draft. Again, the Jets could completely change things at number 2. If Arvell Reese is not their guy, like, what if they just completely throw everybody through a loop? Go offensive line or go. I mean, there are so many possibilities, especially for a team that is 2 first-round picks. And then that's the trickle-down effect all the way down the board, where teams decide to jump because they have an opportunity to get somebody they didn't think was going to be on the board. Or teams decide, I'm trading back. This has gotten too much for me. We can actually get more assets. We can get more. But again, these are very broad scenarios. These are things that could happen, which makes the draft fun, doesn't it? I mean, it does. Unless your team's involved in that chaos. You don't want that, do you? But I mean, this is the potential for this NFL draft. And I think we end up seeing Ty Simpson sneak in. I think we'll see a lot of trades in that first round. And we're going to see some teams really, really screw things up. Because in the end, drafting well is how you can rebuild a team relatively cheaply, developing that young talent. We know in the NBA, for some teams, that's your only option. And that's the reason why they're tanking. The problem is now the NBA is about to make an example out of everyone. And it's very clear this is about the NBA's image, and it's not about these teams that are actually involved. Nick Ashew, Westwood One Sports. That's next. The NBA has made it very clear that the image matters. And listen, every business, every league, your image should matter. But they are making an example out of teams this year. Nick Ashew, Westwood One Sports. And the NBA has just, Adam Silver, listen, I think he's a good commissioner, but he is such a knee-jerk reaction commissioner. There are times where you just say, dude, pump the brakes. It's like everybody's got that friend that overreacts to everything, and it's just like, okay, breathe. It's gonna be okay. Some of this is really good. The NBA has tried things, and some stuff's work. I like the NBA Cup. I know it's kind of gimmicky, but they're trying to give you more purpose to these games in the middle of November and December. It's cool. The play-in tournament's been great. That was one of the smartest things that Adam Silver's done. They figured it out during the pandemic in the the bubble, and it became something that worked. But the whole we're going to fix it full stop when it comes to tanking. You're never going to fix tanking totally. It's borderline impossible, because in the end, the system the NBA has still involves teams getting better by drafting well, by getting the best talent available out of college, because a lot of these teams don't have the budget, they aren't in the market to be able to afford big name free agents. That's just how this goes. For me, look, I'm a Wizards fan. I mean, I'm really a Knicks fan, but I love the Wizards. I've been to DC most of my life, so they're right in the middle of this whole tanking thing. They're one of the offenders of the NBA, right? The Pacers and the Jazz and the Kings, and Adam Silver's like, well, we're going to stop this. And teams have been prepping all year for this draft, prepping last year for this year's draft with all of the talent we've talked about coming out. AJ DeBenza and Darren Peterson and Cameron Boozer and Darius Acuff. Go down the list. And, Caleb Wilson out of North Carolina. I know he's hurt. And again, that's a long list. And you go down more of that draft board, and there's a lot of other talented players even beyond that may not be at the highest level. Again, not everybody's going to pan out. That is a guarantee in this draft. But teams have been preparing, and all of a sudden the NBA is going to go, yeah, we're actually going to change the rules right before this draft. So all of the work you've put in for this draft, sorry, it's actually not going to work out the way you expected. They've got all these different proposals for what they're going to do to fix tanking, but it's already going to be based on what teams have done this year, then changing the rules in May for June's draft, and then carrying it over to next year. Not like, hey, here's the rules after this. It's no, here are the rules and how we're going to set up the lottery for teams for this draft. The one that you've been egregiously losing games for? No, we're going to just make this now. Okay. Well, you got one option where it's an 18-team lottery now. You're adding the play-in teams, and the 10 teams with the worst record would all just have the same chance at the number one overall pick. Okay, so now all of these teams that have been losing, you have the chance for a team that's on the back end of what the lottery would be. It's equal chance as the team with the worst record having the number one overall. That'll be fun. People will be real happy when that happens. There's another option the NBA has in play now. By the way, one of these options I'm presenting you is what's going to happen. There's an option of a 22-team lottery. This is the most extreme one they have right here. That includes all 4 teams that lose in the first round on top of that. So you'd have all teams that miss the playoffs. Then you're adding all the teams that were in the play-in tournament. And then you have also teams that lose in the first round. And then you base the odds on a 2-year combined record. Oh my God. Are you kidding me? I mean, we are making this the most complicated math problem that you probably could. This is what the NBA loves to do. It's like their CBA. Oh, but don't worry, there's another one. The third option is what it's called a 5x5 model, where you have 18 teams. So it'd be the 10 teams that miss the playoffs, the 8 teams then that are in the play-in and that whole thing. And then you go in, oh, wait, the 5 worst teams all share equal odds for the top 5 picks. And then if a bottom 5 team doesn't land a top 5 pick, they can't fall below 10th. There's like a floor that's protected. Just to keep in mind, just to put in perspective here, last season, the teams with the first, the second, and the fourth worst records, that was Utah, that was Washington, that was New Orleans, all slid to 5, 6, and 7. So we already have teams that have bad records that aren't getting the number 1 overall pick. So they just smoothed out the odds recently. And the NBA is like, no, you're still losing games. We're going to make this worse. I mean, at what point do we just say, this is the system? There are real bad teams in the NBA that are just bad because they're rebuilding. They're not tanking. They're just bad. Here's the thing. Players don't tank. Organizations tank. Organizations put out bad players or young players, and they evaluate their young players, or they are preparing for next year, giving guys opportunities. Now, yeah, are there teams where it's very clear where they're just saying, yeah, we're going to sit this guy for the rest of the season? The Kings are doing it. The Jazz have been doing it. The Wizards haven't. They're just a young team that's not good, but they're a young team, right? And they've had like legit injuries. The Spurs did this years ago for Victor Wembanyama. I understand that there's a level that is involved with this, right? Where you can sometimes tell. I'm not going to lie to you. Stu Kovacs, I'm bringing you on for this. I need your judgment on this, my friend. Stu's in for Carlos. Carlos is sick like I was last week. So it's just getting passed around everybody. Stu was so bad. I was just awful. I was like, guys, I mean, nobody wanted to hear the show that I was going to do last week coughing. I still got a little something going on. It is, again, the East Coast. It's hot, cold, and we're just going up and down. But here's something that I did. I asked AI to come up with a better solution than the NBA to fix tanking in an over-encompassing manner. Not just, hey, these teams are losing and we're going to smooth out the odds and all these lazy. I have a full 6-prong framework from AI. I use Claude specifically. I'm a Claude guy now. It's much better with research, and it's not so nice to you. This idea, I wanted to encompass also small teams, in small markets, teams that are legitimately just young and bad. And what Claude came up with for me was flattening the lottery odds, part of it. So the bottom 14 teams would be eligible. Top 5 teams have the same odds, 11%. That's kind of part of what the NBA is proposing here for this. I'm cool with that. I can work with that. But then there's also a development bracket in this idea. The bottom 4 teams compete for draft seeding, so wins still actually matter. Small market teams would also get a lottery bump. Bottom 10 revenue markets get a 2 to 3% extra lottery odds increase, which isn't much. But here's my favorite one, and this is where we're starting to get Big Brother Stu taking over. One of the 6 pillars that was presented by AI to fix the NBA tanking issue is what's called an effort score. So what do you think about this, Stu? It's a track of basically a composite metric that this AI has come up with of a win total, winning percentage in the final 20 games, point differential, and pace to detect tanking behavior. This feels so Big Brother. This is our future, dude. Teams whose metrics suggest deliberate losing in garbage time, benching healthy players, get lottery odds reduced by 5%. This is AI already telling us we are taking over for you, and this is how we're doing it. But here's what I would say to you, Stu. This at least encompasses like real tanking versus just like teams are bad with pace and guys sitting, and it's putting numbers on a situation versus just like, that guy's not hurt, you're lying, Utah Jazz, we're fining you. It's a little crazy, but we've got to do more than just this, like, let's throw more teams in and make the odds more difficult when there's real teams that are in small markets that are young or just bad that are trying to get better in a system that says this is how you have to do it, Stu. Well, it's going to be overcomplicated. You know that. Mm-hmm. So are you in on the effort score created by AI? Yes. Yes. Win total, winning percentage in the final 20 games, point differential, and pace. And listen, again, like we all knew the Spurs were tanking for Victor Wembanyama. That was so obvious. I watched so many of their games. I was doing a betting show at the time, so trust me, for a network that doesn't exist anymore. But that being said, I was watching these Spurs game going, wait, they're up by like 8 or 9 points. The fourth quarter hits, dudes are sitting late in the last 5 minutes, and in clutch situations, you're just watching this thing going, they are throwing this thing away. And again, players don't tank, but the players you put on the floor, that involves the tanking. And you could just tell. But there are actually teams out there that are just truly rebuilding. But it's once you get to the point where late in the season, that's where the problem is, right? Like, you're not tanking at the beginning of the year other than just putting bad players out there. What the NBA is trying to save its image with, just like it did with the 65-game awards rule, because it was right before they were negotiating new contracts with other distributors. And it was like, well, we want Prime and we want NBC to pay billions of dollars. We want to up that. So we want to show that our stars are going to be playing. And they created a rule that says you got to play at least 65 games to win awards. Well, that's probably going to go away at this point because, well, you got your contracts, you're good. But this is now another knee-jerk overreaction by the NBA where they're saying, okay, we got to this. There are teams that are just bad and late in the season. It's like, we're out of the playoffs. What are we supposed to do? So it's trying to find a way where they actually have veterans out there and they're not playing versus the young guys going, well, this is really obvious. It's about making it less obvious. That's essentially what this is. And that's where the effort score comes in. Little by little, we're just getting taken over by the robots. Look, I love AI. I use AI all the time for many things in my life. But this would be an example, asking AI to fix tanking, and then part of it is a metric and an effort score. And it's like, well, we can figure it out. Oh, man, have you seen what they're doing in some places? I've seen it. They're watching students in school and seeing if they're looking up or down. I mean, they're watching the eyes. Watch the eyes of players on the court. Hey, look, the NBA is going to change this, but to do this right before the draft, it's so obvious. This is image-based, and it's using teams as an example. That's what we're talking about here. God. We'll see. I mean, it's gonna be a thing. It's gonna be a thing, and they are being absolutely used as an example. All right, another hour coming up. Nick Ashew, Westwood One Sports. All right, I'm at Nick Cashew on all the socials, streaming live on my YouTube channel too, because why not? I'll be there throughout the day and never leave because this is how it all works. Oh man, the NFL is trying to take over the world, isn't it? It is. Even with March Madness and everything going on here, the NFL just always seems to be in the center of everything. And this is what's made the league so great and so smart. As much as the NBA loves to have their knee-jerk reactions, and look, I'll tell you this, the one thing the NBA has really won has been the take over the world situation currently. The NBA has been, I mean, it's a massive powerhouse around the world because the game of basketball is massively powerful around the world, not from a college perspective, but from an NBA perspective. It's the biggest league. It's the league that everybody pays attention to. It's got the stars. It's got the best international players coming over and playing here for the most part. There are a few that don't, but for the most part, that's generally tends to be the goal. But the NFL is trying to get to that point. And everybody's like freaking out about, flag football and how that's been handled and, who should be playing in it and who shouldn't. And then you got the Olympics, and that's a whole other thing. Have we learned now, by the way, that flag football is different than regular football, and that NFL players can't be just dropped in after what we saw? The flag football guys, I know that was a week ago, but this shows us it's very, very different. But the NFL is doing everything it can to try and take over the world, and it's smart. It's the right choice, but it just is going to take time. Because if you're the league, it's not just about making the NFL more popular around the world. It's about making a sport, American football, more popular around the world. So it's like this two-road their system they're driving here right now. That's not where the NBA was. Or, go back to the 92 Dream Team, and basketball was already popular around the world, but then that elevated it in the NBA specifically because you got the stars finally playing in the Olympics and all that. So, the NFL is in a spot now where they're trying to do what the NBA was doing starting in the early 90s and beyond, where it's expanding and playing games. And, if you look more and more at this NFL schedule now, as stuff is starting to trickle out, the NFL likes to feed you a little bit, right? It's like, here's some pro days, here's some, combine work, and, a little bit of schedule news here, and then, a little more for the draft. And then, we got free agency sprinkled in at this point. And then, they make sure that they're always in the news cycle, even with the only thing that takes over the NFL is the NBA trade deadline, because you've had a week and a half at that point before the Super Bowl, right? And then it's like, the NBA, here they come. We've talked about the Super Bowl plenty. And then we go back to the Super Bowl. But the NFL did something really, really interesting, but it's also got a really weird rule mixed in. And let me tell you what I'm talking about here. So they now have 9 international games this season, which is smart all around the world. Everybody. The Seahawks are going to do something that we haven't seen before, though. And it's right. Every year, the Thursday game is the first game of the year. The defending Super Bowl champion plays somebody. And it's the big moment to celebrate the team that won the Super Bowl. And it's the NFL's big opening night. And everybody celebrates, except this year it's on a Wednesday. And that's weird. Now, this isn't the normal NFL trying to just take over another day, which they are. They're talking about having, Thanksgiving Eve games, which is a Wednesday. And listen, I love it, but for the love of God, can we not have it every day? It's what makes football special. But the Seahawks are going to open week 1 on a Wednesday because you got the Rams and 49ers opening Thursday night in Melbourne, Australia. And it's the first ever game in Australia. And it's another check mark for the NFL and another country that they can start to inundate young lads that might love American football down the road. By the way, all smart. This is how you actually make real money for this league, not an 18th game. I'll say it again. We don't need an 18th regular season game. Don't even need a 17th. It is unnecessary. 16 was the sweet spot. But the NFL has essentially moved this entire schedule around for Australia. And the reason why I say that is because if you look in the past, the NFL has played an international game on Fridays the last 2 years in Brazil to start off the season. You have the Thursday opener with the defending Super Bowl champion and whoever they're playing. And then that Friday has been the Brazil game the last 2 years. And that kind of felt like that was the tradition that they were going to have. But in this case, the international game now has been moved to the Thursday. So they've changed their schedule around. They've changed their tradition around for Australia, which shows now they are putting more of a priority on games around the world than just in this country. But there's a weird rule that nobody knows about. Stu, I don't know if you know this, but I'm going to need your opinion on this because I had no idea this was a thing, and it is the most outdated rule that exists. So because of when the calendar actually starts, the reason why the NFL is opening their game or opening their season on a Wednesday, keeping with the tradition of the Super Bowl champion playing their first game, and not doing any game on Friday, which would make way more sense, is because of the Sports Broadcasting Act of 1961 that doesn't allow broadcasts of professional football games on any Friday or Saturday from the second Friday in September through the second Saturday in December. Did you take notes? Did you write that down? Because that's a thing. Because it now falls on, they're opening the season with where the calendar is and where September is, that game would be a Friday game in Melbourne if they'd originally done it that way. But it would fall on the second Friday in September, which is against the law because of the Sports Broadcasting Act of 1961. I feel like this might be outdated, even if you want to say, well, they're protecting college football. The NFL's not going to do games, Stu, on a Saturday during college football. They've basically agreed with them that that's like, they're not going to impede on that until college football is done. But it's not like, what are we protecting? High school football? People in Waco, Texas are going to watch football on a Friday night no matter what anyway. It's not going to make a difference. This is wild to me that this is what's affected the whole thing, where the NFL has basically said, we are prioritizing our international game on a Thursday instead because of the scheduling. We have nothing on a Friday, so we're starting our season on a Wednesday. This is just showing the evolution of where this league is going, Stu. Yeah. Can I make a prediction for you now, Stu? It's gone by next year. I think it's gone. If there's any easy prediction to make in this world, it's that the NFL is going to lobby Congress and other politicians to make sure that the Sports Broadcasting Act of 1961 is changed. I mean, the government can't open the government fully, and they fight over everything else, but they're more than happy to get involved in sports because it's way easier for them to do that than actually fix the real things in this country without getting too into politics. When you see your own airport on CNN because the lines are so long, you go, oh, yeah, we got a problem around here. So there's that. Look, this is... The NFL is king in this country, and we know that. Football will always be king for maybe the foreseeable future. I don't know how it's going to change, maybe robot football. At some point when Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk come together and every other tech bro out there comes together and forms a robot football league, which may be coming sooner than you think. I've already fixed the NBA's tanking with AI, so there's a chance that these robots that we see walking around and trotting soon actually start playing football. That might be the league that maybe takes over because then at that point, there's all kinds of things you can do, like taking a robot's head off legally, and it's fine. And we'll just have more violence, but it's robots. So everybody's good. That's the only way the NFL falls, is that the robots take over the league. And even then, the NFL will get involved some way, and they'll figure it out. One team is allowed one robot on every roster. There you go. I've already included all that in here. I've been just fixing problems this morning. Feel good. Whatever this new coffee I had, I think that might be it. That's helping just a little bit. Look. This is the NFL will continue to expand, and they played on a Wednesday to start the season years ago. I think it was like 2012. I think Obama had a DNC speech or something, and this is rare. And listen, starting the season on a Wednesday, nobody's played yet, so it's not like you're worrying about short rest and guys not being fully ready. But the Thursday games have been bad, right? Like they were better this past season, but you always have a team that looks unprepared. It's a short week, and then the NFL is like, we care about player safety. You're going to play an extra regular season game. Okay. So it's just, they're talking out of both sides of their mouth here. We don't need an extra regular season game. I know the NFL wants to expand their revenue streams, and it's smart. That's smart business. But doing it, expanding internationally is the way to go. Doing it by giving us more regular season games is stupid, and it's bad. If anything, expand the playoffs. Give us a play-in tournament like the NBA. I don't know anything besides just an extra regular season game. And I know we love football, right? We love football, and that's great. But do we really need to be in a position where we have an extra regular season game? We just don't. And we got some guys I get that want to play till they're 100 years old, like Tom Brady. We love football. Guys that really do love football want to keep playing out there. But there's a certain point where we just say enough is enough. Like Tom Brady talking about another return. Tom Brady tried to return again. Is anybody surprised about that? I mean, he was on CNBC on Thursday and just kind of dropped it out of nowhere. Do we have the audio for this, by the way? Because I think he was on CNBC. We do have the audio. All right, this was Tom Brady on CNBC talking about yet another return that he tried after he was the owner of the Raiders. Very happy in his retirement. But how happy is he really? Because Tom Brady is ultimately bored. Let's be honest with ourselves. He is, especially out of football season when he's not broadcasting games. And even then, that's not going to have the same effect. And we understand that, right? It's understandable for somebody that played at the level that Tom Brady did to say, yeah, I missed the game. Guys miss the game. He's in a strategic advisory role with the Raiders, basically. And Pro Football Talk came out and said that there's kind of a disconnect between Brady and the Raiders, and it's early in this process, right? This is new for him. This is new for them, but he has no daily role. They've raised some questions about whether he's actually fully committed to the ownership job. Listen, ownership jobs don't have to be a lot. You give them your money and you walk away. Honestly, the best owners are the ones that say, let the people that are football people do their job. Now, Tom Brady's a football person, so it's a little bit different, but maybe coaching Fernando Mendoza is his purpose, because organizations that actually develop young quarterbacks are the ones that have a higher trajectory. They're the ones that have a great future. And the Raiders are in a really pivotal spot. You got a new head coach. You just had a failed trade of Max Crosby that you're going to have to figure out whether he's still going to be part of this team or not. You have the number one overall pick and a quarterback that probably wouldn't be a number one overall pick in the 2024 draft with all those other quarterbacks that you had there. But Fernando Mendoza is going to be the guy, and we know that. But a lot of times, when you have a quarterback that's drafted very high in the first round, it's because that team was bad. And a lot of times those teams aren't good at developing quarterbacks. See the New York Jets. But there's a unique situation here for a very dysfunctional franchise and an organization that can't figure out their coaches and can't figure out their quarterback situation and just can't figure out really anything other than an awesome stadium and being in a great city in Vegas. The Raiders can maybe fix that, and that's because of Tom Brady. That's his role. I fixed it. There, it's done. Tom Brady, you have a question? Mm-hmm. So it's really interesting that you say that. So again, being in DC for me, the immediate comparison that people have brought up this week has been Michael Jordan with the Wizards. Ownership comes back and plays. It's not the same situation necessarily with Tom Brady, but there was a way to continue to push Michael Jordan just from an ownership and a player development, and which, by the way, he was terrible at drafting and developing. It's just not him at all, which shouldn't surprise anybody given the stories of him as a player, punching guys in the face and things like that. It's just that's not how it was. But if you are the NFL and yeah, you want to continue to push the post-playing career of Tom Brady because he's still a name that should be associated with the NFL, yeah, I think there's absolutely a level of that. Listen, there are so many conversations that are happening behind the scenes when it comes to how you're developing the league's image and individual players and how they can fit together. And the NBA does that really well. The NFL, it's about team a little bit more. But listen, quarterbacks are stars. They're in the level of what NBA stars are. And Tom Brady being involved in the league, Tom Brady being in the conversation, Tom Brady being on Fox helps. I don't know if the NFL specifically was involved with that, but like, let's be real, it helps. And Tom Brady being in the conversation and, oh, what about another comeback and part ownership and just being involved with this and the whisper of like, what if he came back? How would this look? Yeah, you could just dribble that stuff out there and see how people react to it. I mean, hell, what if there is a loophole? Let me tell you something. I root for the chaos. All right. I root for the Raiders somehow being in playoff contention this year. I know it's not going to happen, but let's throw out a scenario for you. Fernando Mendoza is the starter, obviously, because they basically said Geno Smith ain't that guy, even though, hey, maybe giving him a year might be good, but nobody ever wants to do that. And Fernando Mendoza's hurt late in the season. And who comes down from his office to save the Raiders and get him in the playoffs? None other than 49-year-old Tom Brady. Listen, here's the thing. Tom Brady, if there's anybody that could make I'm convinced that Tom Brady could play football till he's 50. He couldn't run, but if he stands in the pocket and throws the football, he could absolutely do it. Because if Phillip Rivers can get off the couch and look like a stuffed sausage out on the football field for a few games for the Colts this past season, Tom Brady, who is in much better shape, could absolutely come back at 49 years old and play a game or two for the Raiders. Without question, it could happen. We got to be honest with ourselves. Phillip Rivers looked like your neighbor who's throwing the football with the kids and then is going to go inside and eat a whole pizza. He had no idea how much he weighed, didn't care. Everybody knew it. You watched him and went, oh my God, they went up 2 sizes for Phillip Rivers on that jersey. But yet he actually had some decent games. Didn't have to move, didn't have to run, just throw the football. Tom Brady could do that. It's just nothing beyond that. I know the rules say you can't own and play. I'm sure there's a loophole. And I'm sure there's a way that could happen. Listen, Michael Jordan left ownership of the Wizards to go play, came back, and then it was bad at the end. I mean, there's a famous picture of him in the Washington Post back when the newspaper was a thing, and he just driving his Mercedes out of the players' parking lot for the last time when he was just gone from the organization after playing, and they knew he wasn't coming back, and he wore out his welcome very quickly. But there is a level of comparison there between Tom Brady and Michael Jordan and kind of the post-playing career that's just there a little bit. I love it, man. Tom Brady always knows the right thing to say, too, doesn't he? All right, we're brought to you by Progressive Commercial Insurance, protecting your business vehicles 24/7. See if you can save at progressivecommercial.com. It's not just the NFL that wants to grow and take over the world. The NBA is thinking less tanking and more teams. Vegas is becoming the premier events and sports town that we have in this country. Nick Ashew, Westwood One Sports. Just like an 18th game in the NFL, the expansion of the NBA is an absolute inevitability, right? It's happening. And the NBA voted this week to formally explore expansion bids with Vegas and Seattle. These teams have been talked about for years. It's happening. I mean, for one, as an NBA lover myself, don't we all miss the Sonics, right? Like, come on. The Seattle Supersonics are just that iconic franchise that never really won a lot, but everybody still loved. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the name. Maybe it was Gary Payton and Sean Kemp in the NBA Finals against Jordan and just thinking how good that team actually was and how Gary Payton should have been on Jordan more in the finals. That's a whole other thing. It's just there's something about that team. Maybe it's nostalgia. Maybe it's just absence makes the heart grow fonder, but they'll be back. They're going to be back. Seattle's got the whole infrastructure in place already. They got a hockey team. They got a WNBA team. It's going to happen. And then there's Vegas, which back in the day it was like, oh my God, we can't have any sports in Vegas. There's gambling. And now it's like, everybody's cool with it. So let's do it. This is, if you look at one from the NBA side of things, this is probably the right time to expand. If you want to argue whether or not there's enough talent to be able to do it, I think the NBA is loaded with talent. I've seen some people, I think Tracy McGrady was like, there's not enough talent to expand. I mean, it's actually a very deep, young, talented NBA as just an overall collection of players. This is the chance to do it. And the NBA continues to grow, and they've got the money and the revenue from all of these new TV contracts. And, there's going to be a level of transition anyway, where you're going to be looking for, again, the new face of the NBA and kind of how that looks. And this is a chance for a little bit of a restructuring. And the NBA is continuing to grow more and more from a star-driven league and from, the interest level. And people can say what they want about a long season. And there are problems the NBA certainly has, just like every league has. But if you're going to do it, they've been pushing it for years. This is the time to do it. And let's be real, these franchises are going to be worth like $7 to $10 billion anyway. And this is inevitable. Here's the thing, though, too. Look at what Las Vegas has become. This is now arguably the sports capital of the entire country. I mean, I understand we have cities that continually win. Boston has winners every year. Screw you guys. You guys win every year. I'm so sick of it. Yes, I'm jealous. I mean, really, everybody, you in Boston. I mean, you guys don't know what losing is. The Patriots suck for like 2 years. And you're like, oh, here they are again, back in a Super Bowl. Oh, the Celtics, Jason Tatum is out for the year. We're just going to sell off our team and just see how next year. Oh, wait, Celtics might actually get to the NBA Finals again this year. I mean, yes, I'm jealous. Of course I am, because all you do is win there. But if you really want to talk about events and sports, and it's Vegas is growing, isn't it? Vegas is getting to that point. You've got a 3-time WNBA champion there. You've got the Raiders, who now have the number 1 overall pick and Tom Brady there and a chance to kind of turn that franchise around potentially. You've got the Golden Knights and a great hockey team, and now the inevitability of an NBA team there. I mean, and let me tell you something too. We know Vegas is an events town. We know Vegas knows how to put on events. That Super Bowl was incredible. Like the entire week. It was the best Super Bowl I've ever been to. I mean, it was unbelievable how it was run. And you should expect that. That's literally the core DNA of the actual city of Las Vegas. It's events and it's shows and it's entertainment, and they nailed it. So the NBA is smart. And here's the dirty little secret about the NBA. They've wanted a team in Vegas long before it was okay to have a team in Vegas. If you go back and look, and I can't even remember what year it was now, but the NBA had an all-star weekend in Vegas, and people were so nervous. It was like, oh no, they're around gambling. What if people throw the all-star game? And it was fine. Like, it's good. This stuff is so regulated that now when people see betting and there's like a scandal around it, it's like, see, that's the problem. And it's like, well, actually, it's because this is so regulated with all of these sports books, and they're paying attention to every little detail, and it's data related, and they're focusing on every little minute detail and inconsistency, that you're actually bringing the pimples to the top and popping them. It's not staying underneath the skin. We're finding these things. It's never going to be perfect. But that's a town that is right. Oh, and by the way, I didn't even mention the A's. I know the A's are just irrelevant, but maybe they'll be better now that they're going to be in Vegas in a year. Not now, but eventually the A's will be in Vegas once they build their stadium. And this is This is going to be a team that's going to be a destination for a lot of players to go to. It's going to be a big show. It's going to be about the fan experience. Because remember, too, all professional sports across the board are trying to find new ways to make you want to go to games. Because it's real nice to kick back, put it on the TV, crack a beer or whatever it is you'd like to sip on and just go, yeah, I'm just going to watch my team today. We're on this big TV that costs very little compared to what it used to. That's what people like to do now, as opposed to going and dealing with traffic and overpriced food and drinks and parking and maybe you like tailgating. If it's an NFL game specifically, there's probably a lot of drunk fans in the stands. That's always the case. So they've been tailgating since 7 a.m. You crazy people in Kansas City. I've seen those lines. I know what you do. You guys are lining up before the sun comes up. You're cracking a beer, probably sitting there waiting. This is so important for the NBA to make it about the experience there. Because what you can also do after you start to build up that franchise in Vegas, if you're the NBA, then you kind of take some ideas. You see how they did this? You see how you're going to get the best minds creating the blueprint for the next generation of the fan experience at an NBA game. It's an 82-game schedule. You got to make this thing more exciting. You got to make it more interesting. I think it'll be at the same time. So, Roy, I think it'll end up being both Seattle and Vegas. They're saying 28-29 season. So 2028, they're expecting these teams to be there. It'll be both at the same time. I don't think they're going to do like one and then the other, because you got to have the expansion draft. You got to then get these teams up and running and then let them be involved in the actual draft before that season. And by the way, wait for that expansion draft in the NBA. There's going to be some feelings hurt because you can only protect so many players. There's going to be franchises that are like, we get to get out of this contract maybe. It always happens. There are going to be players that are going to be exposed in the expansion draft, which really, if you get to go to Vegas, maybe you're like, oh, that's not so bad, depending on where you're coming from, depending on the organization. But you'll have both. You'll have both probably out there at the same time in, a couple of seasons. It won't take that long. And the key for this, too, is, again, both Vegas and Seattle have the infrastructure. They have the arena. You've got a blueprint for how you start a franchise, how you scale the entire league. So it's really already been put into place where they can make this thing go relatively quickly. It's just building those rosters. And let's also not forget, Vegas is going to get another Super Bowl in 2029. I have made the argument for years that Vegas should just have the Super Bowl every year. Maybe you could sprinkle in a couple other cities. LA is great. And, maybe Miami. You want it to be a place where people can go and have fun and the weather's nice. And although I say this, and the weather at the Super Bowl 2 years ago in Vegas was terrible. It was rainy and cloudy and dreary and in the 50s the entire week. And I'm like, I left the East Coast for this? This is supposed to be good. It's supposed to be good weather, but you can't control the weather. But it's better than Minneapolis. Then listen, Minneapolis, it's just cold. There's nothing against you guys. I'm just telling you, it's way too cold in January and February. It's just brutal. If you don't live in that, we're just not tough enough. People in the Midwest, and again, across all the board, it's the toughest, nicest people ever. But you guys are just crazy. You can walk around in shorts in 40-degree weather. That's like summer for you. It's just too much. But, Vegas is a town that is going to continue to be involved in this. And I'd argue every 2 years you have it in Vegas. Why not? I mean, it is an events town. And it's not that expensive either. The cost of living, that's a whole other conversation. But that's the thing for players, too. No state income tax. That matters. You're taking home a lot more money. Get a chance to live in Nevada outside of Vegas, in one of the suburbs, nice neighborhood, taking home way more money, a lot less in terms of taxes. Meanwhile, we're talking about players with these, the California tax just playing there and how much that's taken it away. Like, whew, this stuff guys they may not know it themselves. They're young. You got accountants that'll tell you too, hey, you want to get picked up by Vegas in the expansion draft. You're going to make way more money. That take home, you're getting an extra 30% or whatever. It could be an insane amount. But look, you're now, if you're the NBA that wants to find your own ways to grow and expand, that's going to be adding 2 teams. You're not going to be adding more games to the schedule. God forbid the NBA had 86 games. Could you imagine? It's never going to happen. The NBA is relatively expanded across the board internationally now, right? They got tons of games and they've got their own league in Africa. That's a development league that's bringing a lot of great talent from Africa to the NBA now. It's really cool what the NBA's done, but they've been farther along than the NFL when it comes to that expansion around the world because basketball was already established a lot more. Yeah, the 92 Dream Team really helped it increase the popularity, but it was already, there was a foundation there. The NFL is starting it from scratch because they are a league that has the responsibility to grow an entire sport versus the NBA is really growing their league with a sport that already has a foundation there. But if you're the NBA and you're looking to grow and do the next thing, it's in-season gimmicks. I'll say gimmicks. Let's be real. The NBA Cup is a gimmick, but it's fine. I don't hate it. I'm not one of those people that gets upset when something new happens. It's like, give it a shot. Let's see. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't. But the NBA is very quick to do something, knee-jerk reaction, and then if it does work, lean in, and if it doesn't work, they pull out real quick, right? And, the All-Star game format is probably pretty good with what they did. I think they may have found the solution there. They've tried some different things. Nope, that's not working. We're not going to try that. The play-in tournaments worked. I think that kind of adds a little level at the end of the season of intrigue. You're not expanding the playoffs, but you're like expanding adjacent the playoffs, if that makes sense. Again, it's why I think the NFL should just expand the playoffs. I'd be down for that, but this is probably the next evolution of the NBA. You're not going to add more games. You're just adding more teams. There are more jerseys to sell. There's more money for the league. There's more, and again, it's cities that make sense. It's not some random cities. I mean, I'd throw Nashville as a city that would make a lot of sense, but you got the Grizzlies in Memphis. If you move the Grizzlies from Memphis to Nashville's a great city too. It's its own kind of events town that's there. I wouldn't be surprised if, Nashville tried to make a push, but we know what it's going to be. It's always been Vegas and Seattle for the NBA. It's been thrown around forever. It's inevitable. It's going to be the case. You got to F1 races and more fights and stuff in Vegas. It's, again, I'm arguing now that it is once the NBA is there, it's the sports capital of the country. I mean, it really is. Say that again, Roy. San Diego, yeah, nice try. San Diego is an awesome city, but there ain't no sports there. There's just nothing there. But why? I mean, people don't care because you can go out and go surfing, and I mean, the food's. I love San Diego. Obviously, it's one of my favorite cities. But for the love of God, there are no. Yeah, people. It's hard to make sports relevant there when there's a million other things to do. Hell, it's hard to do that in LA. I mean, really, LA's got a ton of teams, but there's a ton of other things to do. If you are not relevant in Los Angeles, people go, well, I'm bored of that. I'm going somewhere else. Can I be seen at a Lakers game where the Lakers actually matter? Nope. Oh, well, Clippers, well, they got a cool arena. You have to make the arena cool. You have to have stars if you're the Clippers to try and compete with the Lakers. And then you've got the Dodgers who are spending notice all the teams in LA. Look how aggressive they are. The Rams, F them picks. The Dodgers, we're just going to spend all the money in the world, and then we're going to spread that money out over 30 years to everybody. Dodgers, staying relevant. Rams, staying relevant. Lakers, we know what the Lakers have consistently done. Then you got the Clippers and Chargers, who are the stepbrothers, where it's like they're there, but they're not really there, but they're actually – the Clippers have been decent teams, pretty good teams in the past, but they still operate in the Lakers' shadow. And then the Chargers don't really have fans there, but actually a decent team. If John Harbaugh can actually get that team to, or Jim Harbaugh can get that team to actually win in the playoffs, like there's something there. But yeah, when you're in Los Angeles, man, it's like you are competing for the attention of all the other things going on, like San Diego on steroids. That's really what it comes down to. All right, wrap it up next. Nick Ashley, Westwood One Sports. Being the guy that follows the guy in sports is tough. And it's worked for Duke. You know, John Shire and following Coach K, but it has not worked in North Carolina. You're looking now, Hubert Davis gone, and that is a blue blood program that has just really been struggling to find its way over the years. It doesn't mean they haven't had talent that's obviously there, but they haven't been able to put the whole thing together at all. Caleb Wilson's going to be gone anyway, probably be a top 5 pick in the NBA draft, even with now, if he had been healthy, maybe things would have been a little bit different for North Carolina towards the end of this. But like as we sit here right now, they're looking for a head coach, and Billy Donovan's name has been thrown around. It was thrown around for Kentucky. It gets thrown around a lot, and he's just sat there for years in mediocrity with the Bulls. And so it's like earlier in the show we talked about, like, at what point are the Browns going to finally say enough with Myles Garrett? We've done it. We need to move on. Like, this has gone as far as it can. At what point does Billy Donovan look at the situation with the Bulls and say enough? I mean, this team, it's it. Like, the Bulls have been mediocre at best his entire time there. They had a short stretch very early on when Lonzo Ball was healthy. Lonzo Ball was actually a pretty good point guard, in case you forgot, when he was healthy. And, there was a short stretch where they were right at the top of the Eastern Conference. That was pretty much it. I understand that college basketball has changed tremendously. But if you are somebody like Billy Donovan that's now spent years in the NBA with multiple teams, you're just transferring your skills over from the NBA to college basketball, where they're free agency with no salary cap. And recruiting would be a lot easier for him. You're Billy Donovan. You've coached in the NBA. You've won multiple national championships in college. And you have a program that's going to be willing to spend money because they want to get back to relevance. This is the time. This is the time, if you're Billy Donovan, to say, you know what? It's time to move on. I get it. The NBA is a little bit more regulated and controlled in terms of, like, you don't have to do all the work. You got a GM in a front office. But, like, college programs are doing the same thing. They've got GMs and they've got people that college basketball and college football programs will have full front offices within the next 5 years. All the big programs will. They're already developing. They're already building it. It's only going to continue. So the same concept that's in the NBA will be taken and transferred over to college basketball. So if you're Billy Donovan, this is your pitch. Like, okay, you want me, UNC? Here's what we got to have. I need a general manager. I need an assistant general manager, and I need to help with recruiting, and I need this to be something that's operated like an NBA team. I've been there. I understand the framework of it. I know good. I know bad. I mean, he was with the Thunder, so he knows how good organizations run, even though they're better without him. Billy Donovan was a better college basketball coach than an NBA coach. Let's just be honest with ourselves here. Billy Donovan has not been a great NBA coach. He's been a mediocre head coach in the NBA, and that's it. But it makes sense, and this is the time to strike while the iron's hot. Like, this will work for him. And it makes the most sense. And North Carolina will throw him a boatload of money because UNC is watching Duke continue to succeed year after year. John Shire is their head coach after Coach K is gone. Meanwhile, North Carolina is trying to win a tournament game. That's the ceiling for them. It's done. It's time for them. It's time for Billy Donovan to take this job. It makes the most sense. It's the best situation for him, and he can get whatever he wants from them. Think John Harbaugh with the Giants. $20 million a year, full control over everything. Billy Donovan would get that because UNC is desperate to be relevant again, because this is a school that has prided themselves on their history of basketball. And it's not there anymore. They haven't had it in a long, long time. It really is. Again, it is not easy to be the guy that follows the guy, because the expectations are there. Kalen DeBoer at Alabama's had a overall, a relatively successful run for the most part. The problem is he's always going to be compared to Nick Saban. Always. It's always going to hurt him. Fans wanted Nick Saban fired every year they didn't win a national championship. You think the head coach now that's there that follows Nick Saban is going to have less of an expectation? No. It's going to be the same, if not more, and it's going to be compared all the time. It's the same thing with Hubert Davis after Roy Williams. And it was the same thing with John Shire after Coach K. The difference is there's been a level of consistency still there. The program has stayed at the same level. They're in their third straight Elite Eight now after winning yesterday. And again, Duke is talented. They were able to overcome a lot of the injuries and bad three-point shooting to get back to an Elite Eight, down double digits to St. John's in the second half of that game, thinking, oh, St. John's is going to win this thing. Duke's the villain, but they continue to succeed. Love them or hate them, that's a program that continues to just keep pace with college basketball. When a lot of people were here's the thing. Evolution is always going to happen. Change always happens in any business, in any industry across the board. If you don't evolve with it, you will die. Plain and simple. In college basketball, it was the one and dones for a while. Kentucky and John Calipari embraced it. They won one national championship. Did they fall short a lot? Absolutely. But they at least embraced it. They swung for the fences every year. Duke also did the same thing. Some programs said, not going to do it. Look at Clemson now. Look at Clemson in the transfer portal. For the love of God, involve yourself in the transfer portal. Like, what are you doing? Oh, we're not going to do that. That's not how we do things. Oh, things are going to stay the way. No, they're not, Dabo Swinney. You're going to have to evolve with what's going on in your sport today, or you're going to fall behind. And in the end, it's just going to hurt you. Where you're sitting there complaining, right? Oh, fire me, find somebody else. They just might. You have to evolve with the way your sport or the way your industry is going. You can't do the same thing you did 20 years ago. It does not work across the board everywhere, period. And North Carolina didn't really embrace it as much. I mean, they did to a point. Some of it is just they need better coaching. But Duke fully leaned in and just said, all right, we'll do one and dones. But they also were surrounded with other players that stayed longer, and that helps, and that builds a little bit of a balance. Kentucky leaned too far in when it was just like your entire starting lineup's freshmen. And you're like, okay, let's get a couple of guys that have played college basketball before, because that helps in the tournament. You need great guard play, and you need veterans. You need players that have been in these high-pressure situations before. Because if you watch end-of-game situations, clutch situations, within last 5 minutes, as the NBA defines it, there is still a much better level of like game management in the NBA than college basketball, because we got players that have been there more. Even if it's not great all the time, generally you watch a late game situation for a lot of young college basketball teams and they fumble the ball around and they're missing free throws and the pressure's on. So they haven't been there before. And it's different than high school. You jump to the next level, it gets harder. The pressure's there, the spotlight, all that. You got to have people that have that experience and understand what it feels like to know that you can get through it. You can make this work. So you have to have a little bit of that balance, but that North Carolina job is a great job. I mean, what's Billy Donovan going to come back to? To what? Like, what would you, with the Bulls, nobody cares about the Bulls anymore. People haven't cared about the Bulls since Jordan retired. Really? And again, amazing run. Bulls fans got 6 titles. Like, if you were alive during that or remember it at all, but like, come on. At what point do you just say, like, being the 10th seed in the Eastern Conference is not enough? Even if you're looking for something that's like low pressure, if you're Billy Donovan, you go to North Carolina, just get them back to like relevance. You don't have to win a national title the first 5 years. Just continue to grow the program. People will be happy. It's, because look, life comes at you fast in sports. It really does. I listen, even if you go switch it all the way over to the NFL, complete pivot and look at where you are in the NFC. What teams do you trust in the NFC right now? The Rams, who've gone all in, right? Leaned in and just said, F them picks. They know their identity. They've leaned in and they've done it. The rest of the NFC, it's like 49ers had their stretch for a while, and you're starting to go, what is the future for the 49ers? What does this season look like for San Francisco? I mean, they've gotten older, and Trent Williams is battling his contract. They're still trying to figure that out. He's, 37 now? They signed a 33-year-old Mike Evans. Didn't really do much else this free agency. I mean, I love Brock Purdy, but he needs talent around him. Ayuk's going to be gone. Jawan Jennings priced himself out, and Christian McCaffrey's only getting older. They can line him up more as a receiver and prolong his career, but there's going to be that. And you're kind of looking around going like, if you're the 49ers, the window may have closed now. Windows close really fast in sports. If you don't jump on it, you've got to be able to recognize that thing's done and move on. And I know it's not easy, but you've got to be able to see around the corner and understand what's coming and make decisions based on that. Again, a lot of it's predicting the future in some ways. But I mean, man, the 49ers, it may be over for them other than what they've got going on at quarterback and the Kyle Shanahan offense. It always gives them an opportunity, but they're going to have to get younger and they're going to have to start thinking about the future. I mean, they're the fewest sacks in the NFL last year. Again, it's why I think Myles Garrett would be a great fit for them. I'd go out and trade for him. I know he's 30, so we're talking not like young player, but again, you're not going to find an edge rusher that's 25 years old that's going to be on the trade market or the free agent market. It's the best you got. And the guy just broke the sack record this past year in 17 games, but still did. So you get to a point where you just go, if you're San Francisco, maybe you need to be F them pick, swing for the fences now too. But then there's the receipts coming back home. We saw it with Sean Payton and the Saints years and years ago. They're kicking can down the road on finances. And eventually it's like, okay, here we go. We're in cap hell for the next few years. And 49ers have their quarterback, but he needs talent around him. And most quarterbacks do. There's very few that just elevate whatever they have. And even that has a limit. Look at Patrick Mahomes. So that life comes at you fast in sports. It really does. And if I'm a 49ers fan, I'd be a little worried team. It's more about the injuries and the, team getting older. Trust me, old teams with injuries. Watch my Commanders went from 12 wins to 5 wins in 1 year. So it's very possible. And it's just, you look at that NFC right now, the draft will change things. Again, there's plenty more. We're only sitting here in March, but it can be really wide open. It's a very vulnerable conference. The AFC, at least, it's a lot of like young talent at quarterback that's going to be in the conversation, but it's part of it. In the NFC, you're going Rams, and it's maybe everybody else at this point. And it may be the Rams for what? A season at least at quarterback. So what do the Rams do if Matt Stafford retires after next season? You know my thing. You imagine them trading for Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow with the Rams. Sean McVay stays instead of just walking away. Put Joe Burrow in that offense as long as he could stay healthy. Hell, if I'm the Rams, I'd trade my first-round picks the next 5 years for Joe Burrow and at least one of their top 2 receivers, T. Higgins or Jamar Chase. I take either one. That's it. All right. 2 hours goes fast. Thanks to Roy Lee, Stu Kovacs today. Great stuff. Hope Carlos gets better for sure, too, here. We're all getting sick. It's Westwood One Sports.